There's no such thing as a moral victory in the National Hockey League, but the Islanders came close. They went toe-to-toe with the Colorado Avalanche. We'll talk about why there were a lot of good things to take away from this loss. We'll have that and a lot more on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. And thanks to you, the Locked On Podcast Network is now the #1 sports podcast network, so we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com and win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I'm Gil Martin. I've been covering the New York Islanders for almost 2 decades, and I wrote the book Ice Wars on the history of the Islanders' rivalry with the Rangers from 1972 till the modern era. So glad you could join us today to talk a little Islanders hockey. We've got a lot to discuss on today's show, including a well-played game where the Islanders end up losing 4-1. We'll break it all down for you and tell you why this was a moral victory that the Islanders can take a lot of positives from. We'll go back and look at our key takeaways on Friday night's win over the Utah Mammoth, and we'll talk a little bit more about the injury situation, and we'll have congratulations for one Islanders player. All that and more on today's show. Let's start with the loss to the Colorado Avalanche. And if you look at this final score, and it says Colorado 4, Islanders 1, you would think this was a one-sided game where the Avalanche just outplayed the Islanders. Well, not the case. This was a 2-1 game with less than a minute left in regulation. Then Colorado gets an empty net goal by Martin Necas, and then Brock Nelson scores with 15 seconds left in regulation against the Islanders' fourth line, which just continues to struggle game in and game out. But overall, sometimes you go on the road playing your 5th straight road game on a 7-game road trip against the best team in the NHL, a team that has not lost at home in regulation all year, a team that is 13-1-5, only has 1 regulation loss all season. And you go toe-to-toe with them for 59 minutes where you still have a chance to at least get a point in that game. You have plenty to be happy about. And the Islanders, they were disciplined. They played good positional defense. They got really good goaltending from Ilya Sorokin, even though, the box score says he had an .889 save percentage. That's because of the Brock Nelson goal at the end of the game. And overall, you gotta like the way this Islander team played. And, you tip your hat right now to Scott Wedgwood, who was outstanding for Colorado. And yet Ilya Sorokin for 59 minutes matched him, shot for shot, toe-to-toe. And the Islanders were in this game every step of the way. I'll put it to you very simply. If the Islanders play the way they played last night against the Avalanche, they will win a lot more games than they will lose. A lot more games. And, again, one of the issues, you can't finish. And part of that was Wedgwood, who was just standing on his head at times. Matthew Barzal had 6 shots on goal. So did Bo Horvat. Those were the two big offensive guns, but Kyle Palmieri had 3 shots on goal and some really quality opportunities. The goal, Emil Heineman on his birthday. Heineman, first goal of the game for 3 straight games. A pretty impressive statistic there. And, let's get this over with. Yeah, it was a little strange to see Brock Nelson in an Avalanche jersey against the New York Islanders. He had a goal and an assist in this game. Give him credit. But, he did well in this game. Good to see. I'd rather see him do well every game that he's not playing against the Islanders. And then Patrick Waugh got recognized by the fans in Denver for his contributions as a coach and, more importantly, as a player. But I just thought that this style of play, the way this team went about things, was really good. Did they score on the power play? No. Did they get plenty of chances to score when they were on the power play? Yes. Did they do a good job of not allowing the Avalanche to get too many high danger chances? Yeah, they did. The Avs had some real quality chances, but most of Colorado's shots were more, further away from the goal, behind the faceoff circle. And the defense did not give up a lot of rebounds. And at one point, Ilya Sorokin, prone on the ice, doing snow angels, made 2 saves. He really kept this team in the game throughout. And, that's the kind of thing you absolutely wanted to see from the New York Islanders. And it's just sometimes you're playing a better team and you tip your hat to that team. And that's kind of what this was. If I had to, do a hero and go to the game, I'm going with Sorokin. Even though he gave up 3 goals, I'm not even counting the third one. It was pretty meaningless. He kept them in this game pretty much from start to finish. GOAT of the game in this one. GOAT of the game is just difficult in this sense. And I'm just going to say failure to finish when they had the chance. I give credit to Anders Lee. He kind of stood up for himself, where, there were 2 nasty, dangerous hits behind the goal. One of them was to Lee. And Lee went out and went after the player that did it to him. Unfortunately, he ended up with an extra 2 minutes, which I really did not understand. He and Josh Manson end up dropping the gloves. You can't go calling the extra 2 minutes on Anders Lee. Yeah, they avoided the instigator penalty because that involves fines and suspensions and all kinds of messy, or at least a 10-minute misconduct, and fines. So at least they avoided that. But if you were going to call an extra roughing penalty on Lee, and Lee did not do anything more on that sequence than Manson did. But if you're going to call the extra 2, then you had to call the cross check on Manson that caused that entire fracas. So, the officiating, I tend not to try to complain about the officiating. I'm not going to say the referees cost the Islanders this game, but that was a bad call. And I know what the refs were trying to do, but that was a bad call. And overall, I'm just very pleased with the way this team played. Not pleased with the result. The winning streak ends, but everydayers will recall before this 7-game road trip started, I said the Islanders need to get a minimum of 7 points on this road trip. Well, they're 5 games in, and they already have 8 points on this road trip. So far, like, mission accomplished, right? And now I'd love to get one more win in these last 2 games. 3 points would be even better. 4 would be perfect. But get me one more win or 2 more points on this road trip, and I would say it was a very successful road trip. And again, just keep playing the way this team played against the Avalanche, and you will win a lot of hockey games. The difference between the way this team is playing this year and the way this team is playing last year is absolutely striking. And I'll say it this way. One of the big reasons for that difference is that Patrick Roy, courtesy of Matthew Darche, now has a lineup that is built to play his style of hockey, or at least it's a lot better, a lot closer to that style of hockey, and it's showing on the ice, and the results have been there. We have got a lot more to get to on today's show. We'll talk about Friday night's win over the Utah Mammoth. That was the 4th straight win on this road trip. We'll have our key takeaways and why, again, this team seems to be building something special. We'll have that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Hockey season is officially here, and nothing beats being in the arena for those opening games. But let's be real, getting tickets can be a total headache between waiting in queues, surprise fees, and prices that jump right before checkout. It's easy to get frustrated when all you want to do is cheer on your team. But that's where Game Time comes in. It's the app that gives fans the advantage. It's your ultimate life hack for scoring amazing NHL tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Their zone deals are a game changer. You pick the section, Game Time picks your seats, and you save big. You could even find NHL tickets for under $25. So take the guesswork out of buying NHL tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. Friday night, the Islanders won their 4th straight. They end up beating the Utah Mammoth. And I love it. Was an overtime win. David Riddick, solid in goal, 27 saves on 29 shots. And the Islanders, again, Heineman scoring to open it. They fall behind 2-1 at the end of the first period, and they just kept fighting. And they were outplayed for large swaths of this game, large parts of this game. And then Jonathan Drouin ties it with about 6 minutes and 16 seconds left in the third period. And in overtime, Matthew Schaefer wins it. Every day, as you may recall, I mentioned that I thought Schaefer and Matthew Barzal would make a dynamic duo on 3-on-3 in overtime with all of that open ice out there. And they showed that in this game. Barzal, the primary assist, Schaefer, the game-winning goal. Did I mention, by the way, that Matthew Schaefer has 7 goals on the season? And that places him 3rd on this team. Bo Horvat has 12. Emil Heineman now 9. Matthew Schaefer 7. And by the way, Emil Heineman had 10 goals last year all season with the Montreal Canadiens in, I believe it was 62 games. Right now, in 19 games, he has 9 goals. I mean, this kid has really showed up for the New York Islanders. And, I love the resilience and the persistence of this Islanders team Friday night. Were they the better team on the ice for most of the game? No, they were not. But did they show determination? And did they never give up and found a way to extend the winning streak to 4 games? Absolutely. And that was a beautiful thing to see. It's what winning teams figure out a way to do. And the Utah Mammoth are a fast hockey team. It is not easy to stay with that team. You go up and down that lineup, your Clayton Keller and your Logan Cooley and your Dylan Gunthers and your Nick Schmaltz. They can move. They have skill. JJ Peterka. The Islanders found a way to stay in this game. They didn't make horrendous mistakes. And when the Mammoth got chances, Riddick was there. The Islanders need more from David Riddick. I will say that. More, when I say more, he was fine in this game against Utah, kept them in it, but consistency. It seems to be he alternates good and bad performances, but again, you take it and you run with it, right? And the Islanders did enough to win the hockey game, and that's what you needed to see. And, as far as hero and GOAT of the game, the hero to me, Matthew Schaefer, for netting the game winner. And in overtime, there were a lot of guys who played well in this game, but got to go there. And then for GOAT of the game, again, the fourth line, just not getting it done. And they still aren't getting it done. Sunday against Colorado, the fourth line, again, just major league struggles there. Casey Cizikas only on the ice for 5.5 minutes. Cal Ritchie, a little less than 7 minutes. They're just, and they were -1 each. Shabanov was the other guy on the fourth line. He was out for 10 minutes because he did get a little bit of other ice time. And it just wasn't, they're not contributing enough. It is clear that Patrick Waugh doesn't trust that fourth line very much. I hate to say this. Because I have been a fan of his for a long, long time. But Casey Cizikas, at the very least, needs to sit for a few games because he just hasn't played well. And, I would recall Mark Gatcomb, bring him up, but we'll see. So hero of the game, Matthew Schaefer, for the game-winning goal, for his strong play. And the GOAT of the game will be the fourth line, which I think in almost every game this year, you could go with that fourth line. But overall, when you look at the weekend's games as a whole, yeah, they go 1-1. But the way this team is playing, they're playing faster. They're playing smarter. And the penalty kill has been better. The power play is maybe not finishing enough, but they're getting chances. And I just like the way this team is playing and what they're showing us game in and game out. Win, lose, or draw, this team is much, much more entertaining than they ever were. They're in nearly every game. You go back to the beginning of the season, and the Islanders started it off 0-3 and looked horrible in those first 3 games. Since then, they are 10-4-2. And just really seem to have turned a corner. So happy about that. And yeah, there's just reasons for hope, reasons for optimism. Matthew Schaefer has made a big impact. Emil Heineman has made a really good impact. Jonathan Drouin has added a little bit of juice to the power play, a little bit of speed to the lineup, another good passer who sees the ice well. This team is different this year under Matthew Darche. Having a healthy Matthew Barzal, having a healthy Anthony Duclair, even though Duclair is only showing us good things in spurts, it's made an impact. If they can figure out the fourth line and maybe finish a little bit more, this team is capable of beating anybody on any given night. And if they consistently play well, which they have been doing over the course of this road trip, the results will follow in the win column. We have got more to get to on today's show. We'll talk about some health updates, plus congratulations in order for one Islanders player. And oh yes, for our Islanders birthday of the day, a forward who was with the Islanders for most of the 1999-2000 season, later played briefly, very briefly for the Rangers. Let's see if you can guess who this Camrose, Alberta native is. All that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you could even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. And Islander fans, use your knowledge of the Islanders on FanDuel. Check out the odds for the Islanders' next game against the Dallas Stars. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com and sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Again, place that first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com. Check it out today. Again, we want to thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 rated sports podcast network. Couldn't have done it without you, and it really means a lot to us. So thank you for that. And let's talk a little bit about the lineup and the health situation. The Islanders, Scott Mayfield missed 2 games. And as a result, they called up Travis Mitchell from Bridgeport. He did not play, but he was a healthy scratch against Utah. The reason Scott Mayfield was out of the lineup, well, his wife had a baby, Theodore. Adorable pictures on social media if you want to take a look. And Adam Boqvist stepped into the lineup, gave you 12 and a half minutes on Friday night against the Mammoth, and then Mayfield back in the lineup against the Colorado Avalanche. So congratulations, first of all, to the Mayfields on the birth of their son. Meanwhile, Max Shabanov back in the lineup for the first time since October. And, you know, he didn't do a lot. He had 2 shots on goal, was a -1. As I said, played in 10 minutes, 33 seconds. But good to have him back. And again with Shabanov, he started this game on the 4th line. And for the life of me, I don't get that. Richie, Cizikas, and Shabanov. Richie is steady. Hasn't been flashy, but has been positionally sound. Has no points, but, he showed he belongs in the NHL, but I can't say he's been outstanding. He's been solid. But Cizikas has struggled, and Shabanov really is not a fourth-line player. Neither is Anthony Duclair, for that matter. This team doesn't seem to have fourth-line style players. That's another reason why I would like Mark Gatcomb called up. I can't say I want Kyle McLean back in the lineup because he has struggled all year and he hasn't provided a lot of physicality. He hasn't provided a lot of offense. You look at his numbers, 1 assist, a -5 in 10 games. Maxim Siplikov, who sat as a result of Shabanov coming into the lineup, 1 goal, -7 in 12 games. He's not really built for the fourth line, but he's certainly a better fit on the fourth line than Shabanov. And, Cal Ritchie, 9 games, no points. He's now -1 in 9 games. So again, at least he's evening things up, but you want to see more. They need to get someone a little more physical. It doesn't have to be a goon, but they need to get more physicality and urgency on that fourth line. And they need to find a combination, a trio of players on the fourth line who Patrick Waugh will trust to put out on the ice. So we'll keep an eye on that. It remains an issue for this New York Islanders team. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day, and Sunday was the 48th birthday of former Islanders forward Josh Green. Green, originally drafted by the Kings in the second round of the 1996 NHL draft, made his NHL debut for LA in 98-99. Joined the Islanders for the 1999-2000 season, played in 49 games, had 12 goals, 26 points, and 41 penalty minutes. Then played for the Oilers, the Rangers, the Capitals, the Flames, the Rangers again, and the Canucks. Later played for the Ducks, the Oilers again, and then finished his career with some stints in Europe and the minor leagues. Played in 341 career NHL games, 36 goals, 40 assists, so 76 points, and 206 penalty minutes. Had 1 assist in 17 playoff games, none of those with the Islanders. Look, when he was with the Isles, they were not a particularly good team. One of his better games with the Islanders, November 10th, 1999, Islanders visiting the Carolina Hurricanes. Felix Potvin, the goalie for the Islanders. Arturs Urbe in between the pipes for the Canes. And in this game, our Islanders' birthday of the day, Josh Green, opened up the scoring in the third period with less than 6 minutes left. Olli Jokinen and Jorgen Janssen with the assists. Mariusz Czerkowski scored in the final minute to clinch the win. The Islanders beat the Hurricanes by a score of 2-0, a 25-save shutout for Felix Potvin. But for our Islanders' birthday of the day, Josh Green, he scored a goal. It was the game winner. He had 2 shots on goal and was a +1 in 16 minutes and 42 seconds of action. Josh Green is our Islanders' birthday of the day. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. You can find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. If you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could follow the show on X at Locked On Isles. You could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR, VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all year long. And I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for a little instant insight and analysis. And it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Everydayers, we are back tomorrow. We will have a full preview of the Islanders game tomorrow night in Dallas against the Dallas Stars. So 2 games left on this road trip. Hopefully the Islanders can, again, be more successful. We'll also have the latest injury updates, and we will have a lot to talk about as far as the Islanders are concerned. Until then, have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.